All right, joining us now, he's the host of CRTV's Levin TV and the host of Life, Liberty, Levin, the #1 show right here Sunday night, 10 p.m. I call him the Great One. Well, Great One, I look at this, the part of me, and I know how much you love the Constitution. You've dedicated your entire life to studying our Constitution, writing about our Constitution, talking about it. And I read this and I see an America that doesn't remind me of the one our founders put together, but a two-tier justice system. And it breaks my heart, and we have a lot of work to do if we're going to fix this.
Tell you what I see as I went through this major report here. I see several things. Number one, out of all the texts, all the documents, all the emails that have been reviewed, you know what's interesting, Sean? There's not a single pro-Trump text. There's not a single anti-Hillary text. There's not a single pro-Trump senior FBI official. There's not a single anti-Hillary FBI official. This was a cabal. And these people had as their purpose to interfere with a presidential election. They interfered with this presidential election worse than the Russians could have ever dreamed of. And I am no fan of Vladimir Putin and the Russians, let me tell you that. James Comey's FBI, there was collusion. The media in this report, appalling, giving gifts and tickets to sporting events and golf outings in exchange, apparently, for leaks. You have a culture of leaks at the FBI. The buck stops with Comey. This is Comey. Comey, disgraced. McCabe, criminal referrals. Have you ever heard of an FBI like this? You have obstruction. Jim Comey spent months trying to make sure that Hillary Clinton was protected. You know why? Because if they had impaneled a federal grand jury and played by the book, she would have been indicted. And the Democrat Party would have had to have another convention and find another candidate. They couldn't allow that. They had to defeat Trump. Comey, insubordinate, usurping the powers of the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, the Associate Attorney General. Insubordinate. You have collusion, obstruction, insubordination. It is absolutely unbelievable. I want to get back to the media. The media, which sings like a bunch of blackbirds on a telephone pole. They move in one direction, they all move in the other direction. Now we know why. The media was working, much of the media, with the FBI. What the Inspector General doesn't tell us for some reason, which media, which reporters, which FBI agents. We want to know, and they don't tell us. Now, there's some recommendations that they have in this report. It was hilarious. Chuck Schumer runs to the Senate floor to immediately defend Comey, except as it comes to Hillary Clinton, and says, it starts talking about the report. Chuck Schumer hadn't time to read this report. Neither did any other of the Democrats running to the media, and they all sound the same because they all have the same talking points. Here's his recommendations, the IG. We recommend that the Department and the FBI consider developing guidance that identifies the risks associated with and alternatives to permitting a witness to attend a voluntary interview of another witness. That's already Department of Justice policy. What that means is that Comey allowed the Clinton witnesses to collude. We recommend the department consider making explicit that except in situations where the law requires or permits disclosure, an investigating agency cannot publicly announce its recommended charging decision prior to consulting the Attorney General. That's already Department of Justice policy. We recommend that the department and the FBI consider adopting a policy addressing the appropriateness of department employees discussing the conduct of uncharged individuals in public statements. That's already Department of Justice policy. We recommend that the department consider providing guidance to agents and prosecutors concerning the taking of overt investigative steps, indictments, public announcements, or other actions that could impact an election. That's already Department of Justice policy. I'll tell you what, I watched this FBI Director Wray have his press conference and learned exactly nothing. And one of the things he did that I found very troubling to me is he said, look, one of the things we're going to do to fix this, and we're already at it, we're going to have very significant training of all of our agents, new agents, senior agents, all thousands of agents, that they need to be unbiased in their investigations. And I thought to myself, they are unbiased in their investigations. The vast majority of the FBI is unbiased in investigations. Why are you trashing your own agency? The problem isn't Joe FBI agent or Sally FBI agent. The problem is Jim Comey. The problem is McCabe. The problem is Strzok. The problem is Page. The problem is that whole crowd. And I found it incredibly outrageous that the new FBI director, if once he said, I'm defending the FBI, it's a great institution, and I happen to know it is. But then on the other hand, everybody needs to be trained not to be biased. This report, even though the IG says he didn't find political bias, I have to say there's bias throughout, and he uses the word throughout. But I would ask the Inspector General, then what kind of bias are you talking about? Racial bias? Sexual bias? Religious bias? Of course it was political bias. As I started out by saying, there's not a single pro-Trump text from any of these FBI agents. There's not a single pro-Trump FBI agent. They're supposed to be objective, but they've politicized it to such an extent. And the reason is, as I said, they had to protect Hillary Clinton because she would have and should have been indicted. So, Hillary, I saw your little tweet today, kind of thinking, well, see, even Comey used his personal email for government business. But, Hillary, you violated the Espionage Act, and Jim Comey protected you. You could very well be in an orange jumpsuit today, and I'm quite serious. But you aren't, and you should thank God for that.
Great one, Mark Levin. By the way, I have a message from our mutual friend Bill. He says, wow, tell Mark, great rant. He's on fire tonight. Thank you, sir. And it's serious, Mark. You're right. She belongs in jail.